What's up guys, and welcome to this review of Star Wars The High Republic Convergence by Zoraida Cordova. Here we are 150 years before Phase 1 of the High Republic, at the start of Phase 2. The setup is simple. There are two planets, Eru and Iruma. Don't know if I'm pronouncing those right, it gets very confusing. It's one of the big negatives I've got of this story, is the names of these planets are tough to say and are very similar. But there's Erum and Arona. I think I've pronounced those differently twice already now. But anyway, there's these two planets, they are right next to each other, like very close next to each other, with a moon in between. And they're engaged in a forever war. A war that's been going on for years and years and years, to the point where no one even knows why they're still at war, except that one of them wants to control the other and vice versa. So, they're currently in a ceasefire. The Republic shows up to try and offer aid and medical support and supplies, only there seems to be a third party who's now getting involved in the shadows and seemingly wants to drag out this conflict. Why is that, we wonder? But anyway, that's the setup of this book, as things lead on to a peace treaty and a negotiation. Things amp up and it's very clear that there are things going on in the background. What did I think of Star Wars The High Republic Convergence? I think it is good. Yeah, it's a good book, very focused, very tight on what it's really focusing in on. A lot of the other High Republic books are like epic Star Wars adventures. This one is set entirely on these planets and doesn't really explore the larger galaxy that much. There is some off-world stuff going on there, but it focuses on a core group of like 4 or 5 characters on this one location primarily, which is different for the other High Republic stuff. And it does beg the question, is why is this story and everything that's happening here, and why are these characters going to be so important to the rest of the High Republic? Is this just another starting point for a new adventure, a new story that may have new connections later on? Or is it actually going to be really significant and important? It remains to be seen at this point. I will also say that this was the initial launching point of the High Republic Phase 2, but it was delayed, which meant that Star Wars The High Republic Path of Deceit, which was the young adult book, came out first, which was originally meant to be the additional content. I will say that you don't need to have read that book, but if you do read that book, the villains in this book will be much better realized, and you'll have a much better understanding of who they are and what they're doing. As it is in this book, without reading Path of Deceit, the villains do come across as a little one-note and stereotypical, and their motives are very vague and unclear. So if you read Path of Deceit, that will clear some of that bit up, and you will have a better understanding of them. But it's not essential, it just makes that bit a little better. And that's probably one of the biggest weaknesses of this book, is the villains behind the shadows, in that they are just a little one-note bad guys doing bad things. Why? Well, not really sure at this point. But the main setup of this book is, I think, the best part of it. The first half of this book is very different to the second half. The first half of the book, it does a good job of introducing all the characters, the locations, the cultures, and setting up what the plot is about. It's about this peace treaty, it's about this negotiation between the two planets with the Jedi and the Republic in between. And the first half of the book does a good job of introducing the characters, giving them all motivations and goals and personalities that clash often. And then weird stuff starts to happen in the background, to the point where there's very clearly a mystery going on. And it almost feels like a Knives Out, Agatha Christie style whodunit in the first half of the book, and it's paced very well. The second half of the book, however, takes the characters from this peace treaty and negotiation element and puts them onto a small adventure across the planet. And it kind of goes from one set piece to one location to another to another to another, and it feels like they're almost rushing to the finish line by the end, trying to wrap everything up and trying to establish a relationship that is intentionally forced. So yeah, I enjoyed the first half of the book a lot more than the second, because it felt like the second half was just a bit too fast-paced for my liking compared to the first half. But it's still good. And I will say, in regards to the second half of the book, there's a twist about, 2/3 of the way through the book, which blew my mind. I did not see this twist coming, and I think this is the sort of twist and reveal that will make repeat readings of this book much better, because there will be new underlying messages and themes and new things to take away from certain bits of dialogue and bits of information, where it's like, oh, that's what they actually meant by that. And that's really cool. The twist, I think, really enhances this book, and it works really, really well. So yeah, not going to say what the twist is, but it's a brilliant twist. So what, if you've read the new phase of the High Republic books so far, they're all seemingly hidden. There's something that's going to happen in Jeddah. We know there's an upcoming book called The Battle of Jeddah, so I wonder what they're hinting at there, maybe. Well, this does the same thing, but it doesn't do it in a way that's like, right, this is definitively what is next. This is, we're all building to this moment. It feels like, right, here's an adventure. Oh, by the way, at the end, yeah, the characters are going over here, just so you know. So it's not really building up to like a sequel or a longer story at this point. In terms of the villains, it definitely is. It's hidden, it's stuff that's going to happen later on. But there isn't like a story that's set up here that feels like it's going to continue in the next one. Which is both a good thing, because it makes this a standalone, enjoyable, good book, which if you just want another Star Wars story in a part of the galaxy that we've never explored before, this is a good one you can have. But if you want one that's part of the larger Star Wars canon, the larger High Republic canon, it does feel like this is doing a lot of hinting and suggesting rather than firmly establishing things. And that's a little disappointing at this point, because it does feel very vague about what the purpose of this book is in the larger scheme of things. So, at the center of this book is a character called Gela Natai, a new Jedi character who is a Jedi Knight. We see that she is struggling to come to terms with her place in the galaxy, her place as a Jedi. Is she destined to have a Padawan? Is she even wanting to be a Jedi anymore? Does she want to go out on her own on these adventures doing good stuff, or does she want to be more meditative back at the temple or whatever? She's really struggling to find her place in life, and the way in which she explores this is really interesting. The fact that she's on this mission with other Jedi simply because they think it could be educational for her, and because she's kind of messed up in a past mission. That stuff about the past mission stuff, about her past and about her background, is not as explored as I would like. I think that a lot of stuff about her character is not vague exactly, but just underdeveloped or not shown much. At the end of the day, she does come across as a very stereotypical Jedi, and that's okay for the most part, but as the main character, essentially, she is a little one note throughout the whole book. And the only time we do see a little bit more from her is when she's grappling with the conflicting thoughts in her mind, which is only every now and then. There's hints at a little romance here as well, and whether she wants to be a Jedi. But I do think all of this conflict in her mind does come to a satisfying conclusion at the end when she does make a decision. But she is likable enough. The other characters in there are Bantu Zen, the prince of one planet, and Ziri, the princess of another. They are interesting and engaging and likable enough, but they are like, they almost feel like Disney characters. They're almost like a Romeo and Juliet stuff going on there. So not the most original thing ever, but it works and they are likable and enjoyable. The other character is Axel Greylock, who is by far the most fascinating and interesting character in the whole book. Don't want to get too much detail here, but he is the son of one of the Chancellors. Yes, this time in the High Republic has two Chancellors for reasons. Yeah, one is focused much more on the politics in the core worlds, and one's much more on the outer worlds. That's their excuse for it. But anyway, Axel Greylock, the son of one of the Chancellors, he's a bad boy. He goes to all these like clubs, he gets in fights, and he gambles, and he's into all the women and stuff like that. He's not what you would expect from someone of his background and current position in life. And as the book progresses, we find out that he has got a dark past, he has got a history with the Jedi and with other people and individuals and groups. And it turns out that all the jokes and the sarcasm and the humour is actually a front for how he's actually feeling. He's a bit of an arsehole at times, I've got to be honest, pardon my French, and deliberately so, but I think he is actually the most fun, entertaining element of this book. I think he's a great character, and yeah, I like where his story progresses and where his story goes. But just to touch on the writing, I think the writer does a really good job at nailing some of the themes and the messaging of the book. There's some great lines of dialogue which heighten the themes and message in the book when there are characters in almost like a Yoda fashion, like saying, well, hey, what about this? Have you ever thought about that? Or this is what this is like. And I'm being very vague to avoid spoilers here, but in terms of like Gellanatai and her conflicts and stuff and what she's dealing with, there are lines of dialogue that perfectly sum things up, perfectly like nail, like, yeah, this is what you should be thinking, this is what you should be doing. And the writer does a good job of that, and does a good job of hammering things down and focusing in on these messages and themes and delivering the overall message and theme. I do, however, think that sometimes it goes a little on too much. I think the book is a little longer than it needs to be. The second half of the book does jump from location to location, like I've said. I think some of that could be trimmed down and tightened up a little bit, and maybe the pacing could be adjusted a little. But otherwise, I do think it's a pretty well written book. And ultimately, that's my review of Star Wars The High Republic Convergence. It's a good standalone High Republic set Star Wars adventure book. Its first half I think is much better than the second half, but the second half is enjoyable. The characters are just being introduced to this point. They are fun, they are entertaining for the most part. Not all of them are as good as the others, but I do think this is a very good starting off point. It's a little unclear at this point what's the purpose and point of this story. Are we going to see characters on this planet later on? I would imagine so, but it does feel like this story is wrapped up for now, and we are now going to launch into something else. Are the characters of this book going to be the main characters going forward, or like the rest of the High Republic, are there going to be a bunch of others that are introduced? It's all a little unclear at this point, and that's kind of cool in a way because it makes it a little more interesting moving forward, but also a little frustrating and annoying because why should I care about what's to come if what I've already read is now going to be pushed to the side, potentially. So it remains to be seen. Overall, a good book. If you want a standalone Star Wars story, it's there, it's good, it's enjoyable. If you're wanting something that's more important to the High Republic, it's unclear if this is going to be that just now. Maybe in a 2 or 3 books time, it will be much more apparent if this is going to be that for you. Otherwise, I enjoyed it, I like it, I recommend you read it if you just want an enjoyable time. And that's my review of Star Wars The High Republic Convergence. Let me know in the comments and feedback down below what you thought of this book if you read it. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Hive at @the_Grant Burton. Hive is actually just Grant Burton. And until next time though, thanks for watching.